Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of Ausdauer Financial, where we cover all sorts of financial headlines, personal finance tips and suggestions, debt management, strategies to help you, leverage your money, all sorts of interesting things, all things world of finance. And this week's edition, we're going to do a follow-up to last week's video on the HEALS Act. There's been a lot in the headlines about the next stimulus check coming from the government, and normally I don't try to do a back-to-back videos on the same topic per se. I like to mix things up a little bit, so to keep things interesting, because not everyone's interested in the exact same topic, so you don't want to do everything all the time. But Friday was a particularly important date in Capitol Hill because you had Pelosi, Schumer, and the GOP's Secretary of State Mnuchin, I'm probably mispronouncing that, and the Chief of Staff Mark Meadows sitting down to discuss trying to get a stimulus package together, and why you didn't have GOP senators or other parties in there, and Pelosi's House of Representatives, Schumer's Senate. So, I mean, the party itself was kind of an interesting choice of selection, but I totally get it for political purposes why they did that. I'm trying to avoid getting into the politics behind this and just report to you what actually happened here. Pelosi's House of Representatives passed a bill for the HEROES Act, which was for a $3 trillion stimulus package that was signed and approved by the House, went up to the Senate, where Mitch McConnell and the GOP created their own bill called the HEROES Act, where it kind of stripped out a lot of the stuff from the HEROES Act and modified other elements of it to strip it down from a $3 trillion bill to a $1 trillion bill. And they have not voted on that. They're still in discussion about it. But what makes this the Friday important was that was a date that they had scheduled a day-long meeting between the parties to discuss terms, hash out their differences, and get something to the Senate floor to vote on. Having said that, unless you have the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the President, all three sign off on a bill, it does not exist yet. I've heard comments in last week's video claiming I must be out of date. Not so much. Everybody else appears maybe jumping the gun on things. No offense to anybody else. You are reporting, you're trying to get views, you're trying to get ratings, you're trying to be the first to the punch. I check sources across multiple foundations, both actual government websites, both conservative, liberal, and moderate. New political sites looking for updates on financial news to try and get my information current, correct, and objective. Having said that, the reality matter is the results of the meeting on Friday is Pelosi said, so Schumer and the Democrats want $3 trillion via the HEROES Act. Mnuchin and Meadows said that's a non-starter. The McConnell's bill of $1 trillion is the most we'll go. That's our cap. That's our limit. Pelosi's saying, why don't we just split the difference and go with $2 trillion? You get some things you like, I get some things I like. It's a compromise. Well, Mnuchin's statement that exceeding $1 trillion was a non-starter illustrates how far apart both parties are, and it's this bureaucracy and this childish infighting on Capitol Hill that make it almost impossible to get anything done as far as bills getting passed and helping the American people. I don't side with either party on this. I really fundamentally don't. In my opinion, I think they both need to grow the heck up, get their act together, and start putting the American people first. Seriously. If the American people need these stimulus checks, if you feel that this is the best interest of our country, then get it together, figure it out, and sign a bill. Simple as that. I get it. Your constituents, the people you represent, have completely opposite interests, but guess what? They elected you to government to deal with that. So, negotiate work it out, stop playing these stupid politics, and start working for the people you represent. Just my 2 cents. Let me know where you fall in on that one. Having said that, at the end of this meeting, Munchkin suggested he was going to try and encourage Trump to use executive orders to roll out some of the elements from the packages that both the Heroes and the HEALS Act mutually support, being the unemployment benefits, eviction protection, and student loans. Now, the HEROES Act, which would have extended the weekly $600 bump, while the HEALS Act would have dropped that to $200 bump, but it would have enabled appropriations to allocate resources to extend that beyond the July 31st deadline, which, as you can tell from today's date, the 8th of August, that has expired. And those funds have been exhausted. People are back on normal employment rates. They had hoped to get this passed to get that extended without any impact to unemployment benefits. That didn't happen because these people on Capitol Hill are more or less babies sometimes. Apologies if you're offended by that, but they just act so childish. Politics drives me nuts. Finance, I love it. I lavish it. I love it. It's my passion. But politics just drive me nuts. I can't watch knuckleheads on the evening news. Anyway, before I started, either way, Munchkin is suggesting he wants to try and get Trump to use an executive order to provide a buffer for the unemployment benefits. There's also 12 million renters nationally, and he wants Trump to sign a law or an executive order to protect these renters from getting evicted for non-payment. And he wants to extend the pause on student loan payments beyond September's expiration. Now, I didn't ask for it, but my student loans were extended to the end of the year, and some other people's were as well. I've noticed that it wasn't consistent because clients of mine I've seen, some are through the end of the year and some expired, so it's like weird in that sense. But according to the negotiations, they want to try and extend the pause on student loan payments to the beyond September and give everybody more time to figure out their economic situations and their financial situations to get themselves back on their feet following the lockdowns that they faced. Now, whether or not Trump can do that or not, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician. I don't know the rules and regulations behind that. As a soundbite, it sounds good. It gives the people something, and there are certainly going to be their constituents that could use this. I don't know if he's going to do that. I don't know if he can do that. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below as to whether that's constitutionally allowed, whether he should do that, whether he shouldn't do that. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. In terms of getting a bill signed, as I mentioned in the last video, they are so far apart on this, and not just from a dollar value, but what the package represents between, as a case in point, this for unemployment benefits. One side wants $600 a buffer, the other side wants $200 buffer. They're just so far apart on so many elements of this thing. I don't see it getting passed. I appreciate the fact that they're actually trying to hash things out and work together, whether it's just for purposes of the election coming up in November or sound bites in the media or what it is. At least they're talking about it. So I would like to think that means they're doing their job, Either way, let me know what your thoughts are on the HERES Act versus the HEALS Act. What do you think will happen? What do you think of what has happened? And do you think this will eventually get signed and everyone will get their $1,200 stimulus checks? Or do you think it's going to be another one of those bottlenecks in Capitol Hill where they talk a game but nothing ever happens? considering how many headlines are on this, there's showing enough pressure from the public for them to at least continue their talks. But we know both parties are so vastly different and so far apart from many things that I couldn't even begin to tell you what it would take for those two parties to come together, compromise, and hash out a deal for the sake of the people. So let me know what your thoughts on all this are. If you just happen to be coming across YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you next time.